What's up, Jammies? Welcome back to another episode of Ricky's Ram Jam presented by Barefoot Wine. I'm feeling super refreshed after the bye and ready to take the Niners head on. My bye week was pretty chill. I caught up on some house chores, did some reading, went to the movies. I saw Black Adam. I was looking for Aaron Donald during it, but unfortunately that collab was only in the weight room. Okay, coming up on today's show, huge show. We'll hit the normal fan question of the week, check in on some NFC West news, and then a guest is joining me who can give us some insight into the state of the Rams and hopefully some secrets for the trade deadline. Rams COO Kevin Demoff is joining Ricky's Ram Jam today, and we couldn't be more excited. All right, so listen. Before we get into the NFC West standings and some news and everything like that, I just want to remind you, if you haven't been a Jammy this whole time, if you're just tuning in for this is your first show, this is for fun surrounding the Rams. This is my experience with the Rams. This is just me loving and enjoying this team. So if you just aren't into that, you can hit skip. But if you are a Jammy, or if you're ready to maybe try something new and just have a little fun along with this team, I suggest you stay, and I'm really happy to have you. So the Seahawks sit atop the division with a win over the other LA team. We got some help from the Chiefs beating the 49ers, but they got Christian McCaffrey, and the Cardinals have a healthy D-Hop back. A lot of progress has been made with the Rams roster with injury improvements. Van Jefferson is off IR. Troy Hill is back. Center Brian Allen is back, and they're all practicing this week and look good. So really excited, hopefully, that they're all back and ready for the game. They're all expected to play this weekend, so that'll be great. Okay, so for the fan question of the week, you guys have been awesome emailing in questions every week to Ricky's Ram Jam at rams.nfl.com from Kenny Laszlo. Hey Ricky, love the show. I actually went out and bought a few bottles of Barefoot wine because you talk about it so much. I have a dating question and it involves the Rams, so don't hang up. My Tinder date is a diehard Rams fan, so I'm going to set up a date where we can watch the Rams-Niners game and have a bottle of wine. What do you recommend? Okay, Kenny, you have come to the right place. Thank you for writing in, and love that you love the show. So, listen, I have the perfect date advice for you. There is nothing cooler. I think it's like a 1:25 game, 1 in the afternoon in LA. So if you're not at SoFi, what you're going to do is you're going to set up a projector either in the living room and make like a pillow fort on the ground so it's like a picnic, or go outside. The light might be a little bit tricky, so you got to figure this out. And then I think since you're going to do picnic because it's afternoon, you're going to want something light, like maybe not something as sweet as a Moscato, but maybe a Pinot Grigio to have, maybe some fruit, some cheese. The date is going to love that. Plus, you've got the Rams-Niners game on. That is such a good question, and I really think a nice crisp white will do the trick. So if you guys want more questions like that, email them in. If you want whatever, just send them in some emails. Keep them coming. Okay. As you know, Jammies, we love football and we love our sponsor, Barefoot Wine. You know, wine and football aren't that different. Sure, they can be complex, but enjoying them should be easy. And both are easier to enjoy with Kevin Demoff in the Ricky's Ram Jam hot seat.
This is the highlight of 2022.
Definitely.
And I think that includes winning a Super Bowl.
Really?
Yes.
Really? I figured, but I didn't want to be the one to say it. I thought you should too. So, Kevin, for those who don't know, I'm sure everybody knows who's listening or watching this, the COO of the Rams, we have this term like HBIC for badass women like myself, but how would you claim your term?
Nothing badass.
Okay, so
I don't know. It's funny. You wind up kind of doing the job, and the titles are what they are. I've had the same title since I joined in 2009, and it's probably morphed a bunch of times. I actually dropped. I used to have executive VP of football operations, and we dropped that because it was way too long on a business card. And and then the irony is, once I dropped that, we started winning a lot more games.
Right.
So it's never coming back.
Definitely.
Right? So basically, whatever happens to the Rams, I guess I'm responsible for, good and bad.
Okay.
Including the Ram Jam.
Right? So this is great. So if you love the Ram Jam, you can thank Kevin. And if you hate Ricky's Ram Jam, then just be quiet and don't leave any comments whatsoever. How did you spend your bye week?
Bye week. We did tried to make a bunch of trades.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Right.
So then I got on a plane and went to New Mexico and had a family weekend in Santa Fe.
Nice.
So, completely random.
Nice. Yeah. Why Santa Fe?
I have no idea. It was on like, we had a list of 5 spots that we've been trying to go to for the past couple of years with the kids. And one of them was like Vancouver. And they had a bunch of fire pollution from the fires Northwest. So we're like, let's go to Santa Fe. So we did 3 days in Santa Fe, which was great.
Nice.
A lot of green chilies.
Nice.
And then came back, and here we are trying to go win the West.
Yeah, absolutely. This big game coming up against the,
What did you do
the
on the
Niners.
bye weekend?
I didn't really do as much as I should have. I really just sort of like laid around and watched football, and let's see, I went to the gym. Like nothing really exciting.
What was it like now that you're part of a team having a bye, right?
So weird.
You're used to a season where previous role you never had a bye.
Right.
The season happens every week.
Right.
Then you get a bye weekend where you're off.
I was so confused to the point where even like I think, you sent an email saying, try to disconnect, relax, whatever, shut your phone. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, it's week 7 and like, what am I supposed to be doing? It was so cool. It was.
I've got to watch Jaguars Giants.
Yeah.
I've got to get up and
that.
watch.
I had to
Jaguars
see that at 10 a.m. Yeah, no, it was good. I sharpened up on my basketball skills because over training camp, you crushed me. So I played a lot of hoops, to get ready.
You're looking for a rematch already?
I am. But I'm working behind the scenes, and now I just gave you my, I showed my poker hand a little bit too much. I've been practicing, and I'm ready to go.
It was 6-0.
It was, but like you drained
what
like
were
2 threes in a second.
What with the practice? Do you think it'll get it to like 6-2?
Yeah, no, I've been hanging out with Shaq a lot, working on our free throws together.
Well, you've got a year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so how does one become the COO of a team? Like, what does a day in the life of this, like, what do you do for those that don't know? I know that's like such a like loaded question.
Well, I think most fans think I make trades, spend money, and deal with uniforms.
Right.
Right. Like if I were to read social media and the internet, that is apparently the job. The fun part is you get to do this, right?
Right.
You get to come hang out in the studio. But look, our entire job is about growing fandom, whether that's building a better football team, building a better fan experience, SoFi Stadium. And, for the past many years of my life, it has been moving a team, reestablishing roots in Los Angeles, building SoFi Stadium, hosting a Super Bowl. This year has been very odd in the sense that the building's open. It's the first time we've been in the same stadium back-to-back years without seats changing or anything moving in a long time. The team has, been pretty good, established. We're fortunate, get Sean and Les under contract for 5 more years and have, get Matthew, Aaron, Cooper, back and continuing to build the team up. But really anything that happens with the Rams somewhat falls under my domain. But a given day could be, when you're in the midst close to the trade deadline, it's, having crazy ideas about what we could go do. It could also be very minute things, like database marketing and how we're going to send better emails to fans, which is probably the not sexy part of the job. But, it really runs the gamut. But it's so much fun. We have such a great group to come to work with each day. And you get to be part of an NFL team in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. Every day is fun.
I'm on the edge of my seat because the trade deadline is right around the corner. So like if your phone starts ringing, are you going to answer and like run out of the room?
I left my phone in the other room.
But what if like some team's calling right now?
I thought podcasts, you're not supposed to have your phone.
No, I know, but I thought maybe this would be some sort of like rap sheet. You're taking out your phone instantly. And
they
you're
don't
like,
call me.
They don't? Okay.
No, they would call Les. They would call Tony. They might call Sean. If they're calling me, it's not to trade players.
It's like, hey, can you
or to
resend
yell
that
at me
email
about why
data?
we didn't trade or why the player's too expensive. Right?
Yeah.
Mine is like accounts payable is calling because we need to go do something fun.
Got you. So when I think about like your job and when I sort of describe it to people, I think less is more. That's funny. Les handles more of the football side, whereas and is less involved with the media side. However, you're the bridge that you're taking everything that we do with Ricky's Ram Jam and Between the Horns and JB and our content and our community. Not that Les and Sean aren't as involved with that, but you are sort of the bridge between the football world and the media world. Is that a good?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's a little bit unique about our building is because I really came up on the football side, that I understand what football needs and wants from a business perspective, right?
Right.
Like our job, set the budget, go raise revenue so we can go spend it on players. But it's also trying to blend, now overseeing both sides. What is marketing doing? What is ticketing doing? What is media doing? How does that interact with the football team? And how does each one make each other better, right? Like how do we take the talents that we have from a team side? And I think about like Jalen's podcast that he does after the game and trying to make sure, okay, how do we go expose one of our best players in a different format, that helps grow fans in a unique way. And it's trying to go back and forth. And look, the great thing about what we do is every dollar we try to make on the business side, we're trying to go reinvest on the football side and vice versa. And so I think that's where your mind is always spinning about how can we be the best football team on the field. It's cliche to be like on and off the field, right? Everybody talks about that. I view it as how do we continue to grow the Rams so that people believe in what we're doing on the field and they get excited about what we're doing off the field and see the merger of those two. And the more we can work on that and the more we can get people focused on that. And look, it's also getting employees to buy in, right? Like somebody who's selling tickets has to think that that's the deal. That ticket sold is going to help fund the next mega contract we're going to go do. And it's trying to convince people that they can play a role in the success of both sides of the house.
You hear that, Jammies? By listening to this show, we could be contributing to the next mega contract.
You could. That's exactly right.
That's pretty cool. So,
which might be yours.
Right. Well, it is, right? I have Jory, do I have a contract, or is that like up in the air? Where he's off air, but I think he just shook his head that I don't have a contract. So it's Jammies. Like we gotta put pressure.
It's not
on
guaranteed.
Yeah, it's definitely
only
not.
For injury.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not. Okay, so trade deadline. We can, there was some whispers about Christian McCaffrey.
Whispers is a kind way of putting it.
Yeah, there were some whispers about Christian McCaffrey. What part did you play in that? Are you allowed to lift the kimono and give us a little insight into what happened?
Yeah, no, I don't think you want me lifting any kimonos, but
yeah, please, figuratively.
No, I think Christian McCaffrey is a great example of what I love about this building. And usually, when we start this season, we'll always identify a few players. Last year it was Von Miller, that we think, hey, if the season does not go right for this team, they could be available for trade. And last year we had Von Miller circled kind of in the summer as a possibility, given he was going to be a free agent, given where Denver was at, and maybe, someone you touch base on. Christian McCaffrey was the same way.
Where they're still at. The Broncos, where they're still at, maybe, potentially. Anyone circled over there?
Hey, Giro is doing a great job, pulling for Nathaniel, and hopefully, look, since the Broncos play against the NFC West, we need them to win as many games as possible.
Very true.
Except for Christmas.
Right.
But I actually think the Broncos long-term, really excited about what they're doing kind of as a brand. I think it's a fun way to watch what they're doing, new ownership, new president, where they're going to be. And I'm a big believer in George and hopefully Nathaniel. Yeah. And Giro as well. So we got a lot of Rams alumni at the Broncos. So hopefully start with a win in London, which is on ESPN Plus on Sunday morning.
6 a.m.
Check your 6 a.m. For those of us who get up and watch Arsenal, that's not unusual.
Right.
To get up at 6 a.m. to watch games from London.
Yeah, I don't get up at 6 a.m. for anything. Like, at all. Like, the house could be on fire.
If Taylor Swift dropped an album at 6 a.m.
That's so true. 6 a.m.
You would be up at like
I would stay up.
3.
Have you been listening? Do you like the new album?
No.
I knew you were going to say that. But
Claire says Anti-Hero is the best song.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah. Claire did tell me that, actually, too. We're friends on Snapchat. So.
Way to go. She was really excited I was doing this, by the way.
Really? Yeah, she's a big jammy. I know she's a big supporter. Okay, so Christian McCaffrey.
So Christian McCaffrey, the fans are like, well, how did we get into Taylor Swift and
they know.
my daughter versus Christian McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
So Christian McCaffrey is one of those people we had circled, and I give a lot of it to Tony Pastores, who really oversees our salary cap contracts and is the glue that holds, I always say, like, Sean and Les are the crazy dreamer type. Tony and I are the more practical, this is what you can and can't do type.
Right.
Which always turns into, well, we'll just do it anyways and figure it out later.
Right.
And so Tony had really been tracking Christian McCaffrey for a while, contract, where it was headed. And I would say we probably would have called earlier, except the fact that we were playing the Panthers meant that calling that week might be like, I'm not sure you're going to trade him.
Right.
I mean, that's the money ball. You're in one locker room and you walk across the hall and you're playing the next day. But someone we had been tracking, just given the fit, given, I think spends the off seasons in California, and, just such a fun piece for an offense, but also knowing that we still, to some degree, have limited draft capital. You have a second and a third next year. You don't have a fourth or a fifth. We'll get them from a compensatory perspective. We'll probably get a 4, a couple of 5s, a 6, but we don't have those yet. And we actually tried a few years ago to start trading compensatory picks that we didn't have yet, but we thought we were owed, and the league stopped that.
Wow.
That was like when the league's had exploded. And we're like, you can't actually trade picks you don't have yet.
Yeah, that would make sense. Credit on credit.
And so, you checked in. I think it was one of those things. It was pretty clear early on that it was us and the 49ers, and they had more draft capital, and they might be more aggressive in this situation. Would have been great to have added someone like Christian, but obviously it was also one of those things, I think, for us, when you look at our team, like, we really like some of the players we have. Kyron Williams coming back, Ronnie Rivers, someone I know the coaching staff's excited about at running back, and I would say, we've lived the life. I remember when Todd Gurley in 2017 was the best player in the NFL.
Right.
What this offense looked like with a running back like that was outstanding. But also you saw the trepidations of what happens, when you give large running backs contracts. And what happened to Todd is one of the most unfortunate injuries ever, from this perspective of what he was and what he meant to this franchise. And it's been awesome to see him in his career now kind of grow on. But you also then have that fear of, okay, expensive running back contracts are something I think we were trying to move away from. So
especially with someone who's older and has had a lot of playing time and
any of it, right? Like it's one of those things, the way, we've set up. And I think when we've made big trades, it's usually been, and I think this is where Christian was a little bit different. When we've made big trades, it's always been about the passing game, whether it's been quarterback and Matthew Stafford or Brandon Cooks at wide receiver, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, Dante Fowler, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. You can go through the big trades we've made have always been about throwing the ball or stopping people from throwing the ball. And I think Christian was a little bit different given his ability in the pass game. But still would have been a departure, I think, from what we consider, some of our core beliefs. Now, we're always willing to change our core beliefs day to day based on who's available.
Right.
But, and look, one of the things that it would have been a lot to give up, that would have been our one move we probably could have made this year and then maybe into next year. And I think it probably wound up for the right. I would much have preferred not to see Christian McCaffrey.
I was going to ask.
In back-to-back weeks at SoFi Stadium.
Does it sting that he's with the Niners?
Of course.
Yeah.
You'd be lying if you said it doesn't, right? And I think that, when you see your rival, get a player that you were both competing for, it certainly hurts. And I much wish that Christian McCaffrey, had been traded to the Houston Texans,
right?
Or the New York Jets, or someone who we play every 4 years. But it's someone we're going to play next week, so that's Raheem Morris's job now.
Right.
To go, go figure out how you stop Christian McCaffrey.
Absolutely. So I'll be earnest for a second. I've never had the pleasure of working with someone who I think, knows everybody, values the little people in the room and spends a lot of time working alongside interns. I feel like when you walk into a room and when every time you address our side of things, you are extremely, plugged in on what everyone is doing. And I really, really respect your leadership styles. Have you always sort of led this way, or is that sort of evolved over time? Or
well, look, I always laugh. I think back to when I got this job in 2009, how bad I was at it, right? Like not knowing what to do. I was really young, and you get better all the time. And it's like anything else you do. The more you get chances to do it, the better you get. But also, I think for me, the most important thing is you find out the people you work best with, the people, your leaders, in our leadership team, whose style you fit with, what you do, how you do it. And once you start to build that out, everything gets easier, right? Like no organization is good because the leader is good. I mean, maybe you can think back to some tech companies or, startups, entrepreneurs, where there's a singular force who drives it, or a Steve Jobs at Apple or some of those things. But for me, the most important thing here is top to bottom, we have to have the strongest talent roster, from, hopefully myself to our coaches, to our GMs, to, marketing, sales, ticketing, community, all the way down to the interns that we bring in. You
Right.
hope you have just more talent than anybody else. And I think when you have that, what you have in our building, which I think is a unique spirit, is we are getting bigger every day, it seems, but we still have a small building feel.
Right.
And kind of everybody knows each other. They stay in tune. And the most important thing was like you're only going to go as far as your best employees take you. And for them to feel valued, like the cool part, and even though your ring pop was awesome, right? Like this experience in 2022, getting to, celebrate a Super Bowl with employees, seeing them at the post-game party, and even better because it was in our own city, so everybody could be there. They could be there with their friends and their families, seeing the ring ceremony. The fun of sports is winning together.
Right.
Like nobody gets into, just like you switch from the, you're Rob Lowe and you're wearing your NFL hat, to the team side. The difference is the wins and losses are emotional. But what you're doing is you're building something together, right? Everybody here wants to win together. I think that's what makes sports teams unique and so many of us don't get to compete on the field.
Right.
And, you have these conversations all the time and we'll talk about like it feels out of your control, and you'll talk to coaches who will say that, GMs will say, I'm like, what do you think for you, me, Jory, Rudy, like it's all out of our control. Right. And so, but what you do is you just have the belief in one another. And I think that's the fun part about, this team. And so I think for me, it's evolved to any leadership is you have to be comfortable in your own skin, right? You have the same person you are at home, or away from work is the same you are in the building, because winning and losing is hard, right? That consistency is what people come to expect. And I think I'd be curious your perspective, right? Like the first time, you come here, we're Super Bowl champs, and we get blown out by the Buffalo Bills, and you're probably like, what the hell did I do? Right? Like
not what the hell did I do, but it was more of like, ooh, what am I going to talk about tomorrow?
Yeah, what did I talk about tomorrow, right? And I think that's the, your job as a leader or as a sports team is to moderate those highs and lows and to try to bring that, emotional consistency so people know. And that's taken me a really long time. I think you talk to anybody in this organization who was around me at first, like Mondays after we lost, like no one would come near my office.
Right.
Now people kind of poke their head in like, are you okay? How does it work? But, I think this building, and we're such a young staff, that what people want is just someone who they think is authentic, that they can listen to. It's not that, hey, you have the best ideas. It's not that, we make the smartest decisions. It's we're going to make these decisions together as a group. You empower people throughout the organization, and hopefully they all wind up with large wine glasses sitting in front of them and being like, this is cool.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it. And I love your leadership style and this team. It's just the talent that we have here. I'm constantly blown away by, just from editors to producers to the tech staff behind the scenes. Like I just the amount of talent that the Rams have is constantly honestly overwhelming for me. Like I really just feel like such a tight knit group that is so young, so talented, so hungry. It's really cool.
So the Rams are jamming?
They're jamming. They're jamming hard. All right, back to the trade deadline for a second. November 1st.
You didn't get all the answers you wanted on the trade deadline.
Not particularly. I
you pivoted to like butter up and then let's get more info.
So now I just told you like how great you are. How aggressive do you think the Rams will be? Does it depend on the outcome of Sunday? Is your phone vibrating in the other room right now? If you're getting a text from McVay like, hey, we got XYZ?
Well, I think the fun thing about the NFL is probably 4 or 5 years ago, we were the most aggressive team in trade. Right. And I do think this new wave of GMs who are, in their 40s, who have come up scouting together, who know each other. And what's great is, it used to be, you think about the old days before texting, like you'd have to pick up the phone and call 32 general managers to be like, hey, do you want to trade? Now you can just shoot a, group text of, hey, what are you trading? Right. And I think the league is much more aggressive on the whole. I think the thing with us is you never know when something's going to come together. You can work on something. Last year, Von Miller, the deal was I'm thinking it was done like Thursday or Friday. We played in Houston and then we announced it on Monday, but and they had played, I think, Thursday night, or they were had tweaked his ankle. So you knew that one was a week in the making and kind of came together slowly, but you thought it'd be done. Other times, I think back to a trade we made a long time ago from Mark Barron. It was, 3:50 in the afternoon. The trade deadline's at 4. We had no trades, and we called Tampa and said, hey, you want to trade Mark Barron? And it came together in 6 minutes.
Wow.
Right before the deadline, right? So that's the crazy part about the trade deadline is some you work on for weeks and they come to fruition. Others don't. I mean, I think about Jalen Ramsey when we did that deal. We would check in with Jacksonville. That was another one. I think if you go back into the Von Miller, Christian McCaffrey, like Jalen, obviously he had the dust up, I think, week 1, whether they would trade him or not. But that was someone, Les called, Dave Caldwell, who he'd worked with at the Falcons week after week after week, being like, you
ready
trade
yet?
Jalen?
You ready yet?
You ready? And it was no. And then finally it's like, okay.
Fine.
Right?
Yeah.
And we actually have a joke here that most of the trades we do happen while I'm traveling because I'm like the rational one of like, that seems like too much or not.
Yeah.
So we get on a plane. So Marcus Peters happened. I was in Boston. Aqib Talib, I was traveling to Las Vegas. When we traded Marcus Peters for Jalen Ramsey, I was at the league meetings in Fort Lauderdale. So
who's coming in the Rams while you were in Santa Fe?
That was, well, the funny part is we booked this trip and the McCaffrey deal is coming down. We're like, it's either going to happen tonight or tomorrow. And someone's like, if it happens tomorrow, Kevin will be on a plane.
That's amazing.
We have a much better chance of McCaffrey. So I need to go away.
Yeah.
Next Monday if we really want something big to happen. But I think what happens is, Les and our team are making calls. We're trying to figure it out. The one, what's so interesting about this year is because the teams are so tightly compressed, right? You have, basically everybody seems to have 2, 3, or 4 wins.
Right.
And with a 17-game schedule, 7 teams, 14 teams making the playoffs, there are probably a lot of teams right now today that don't know whether they're buyers or sellers.
Right.
And so I think Sunday will have a lot to determine, not just with us, but with anybody else. Like, are they buyers? Are they sellers? What's realistic? I mean, you can even look at the Bears yesterday trading Robert Quinn. They have a huge win Monday night against the Patriots, and you're thinking, hey, they're ascending. And then they trade Robert Quinn, 2 days later. And so I think every team probably is going through their dialogue. For us, it's 2 things, right? You're always hoping what you're looking for on the trade market, is it out there? Or are the teams willing to part with it? Just because we may want, a running back, an offensive lineman, a pass rusher, something else, doesn't mean that someone is trading that.
Right.
And, so your needs have to match up with someone else's. And then you have to ultimately sit there and figure out what's the right value, what's going to be fixed, are we in the right position? So I don't think anything for us depends on Sunday.
Right.
That's such a short-term decision-making way to look at it. And I look at this year a little bit how I would say, and it's not just that we were 3-3 in 2019 when we traded for Jalen, is you're looking for last year when you're 7-1. It's really easy to look for a piece that you say, hey, that's going to put us over the edge.
Right.
We were the best record in the NFL. You think you're hosting the Super Bowl. You think you can really be a Super Bowl team, and you go make a very aggressive trade that may only last for half the season. I think now when you're in this position, everything's clumped up, you might go that route, but you're always looking for who are the players who can help you long term. And I remember when we traded for Jalen, everybody said it's a desperation move. 3-3, he's not going to necessarily change your season. Jalen Ramsey wasn't there to change 2019. That was a benefit. Jalen Ramsey was here to be a core piece of the Rams for years to move forward. And I think that's a little bit of the mindset I would say we probably have right now is less, you could look at rentals, if you're saying a player who's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. You can also look for who can you acquire right now who's going to be a core piece of this team for the next 2 to 3 years. And that's a little bit harder of a trade to figure out right now.
Right. Okay. What makes this rivalry looking ahead to Sunday with the Rams and Niners so special?
I think it's 2 things, right? You have great games historically, 70s, 80s between these teams. NFC champ. I mean, you think back to NFC championships games in the 80s, think back to this year. It's always been, 2 teams that I think are, competitive, historically really good teams for the most part. And then you have the LA-San Francisco rivalry naturally, which plays in. And I think one of the best things to happen in the NFL, I saw the Fox promo last week where they're asking whether this is the best rivalry currently in the NFL. And I remember when we came, it was interesting. We're in St. Louis. It was a rivalry, and, and it started, you have I think it's the Dana Stubblefield, quote from, same old sorry-ass Rams. Then, in 1999, beating the 49ers was kind of the emergence of the greatest show on turf, and this team was better, and then I remember in our first game back in Los Angeles in 2016, we played there on Monday night, and just we had played San Francisco every year kind of in the division. You show up that night and the beat LA chants start before kickoff.
Wow.
And you realize how different that rivalry was when it was the LA versus San Francisco, and the fans. And then I think you add in, the Sean McVay, Kyle factor.
Right.
The fact that we've competed each other in numerous trades, and then, they've had our number for the past few seasons in the regular season. It's funny. We had their number when we first kind of came back at the beginning. And, I think Sean had, 2017, 2018, we hadn't lost to them. Then they flipped the tables on us. And, obviously we had the, 2 great games, last year. Obviously, they come back from a 17-0 deficit to make the playoffs and win in overtime. We're able to win the NFC Championship. I just think there's this rivalry, 2 of the most aggressive teams, 2 of the most probably progressive coaches who have known each other, worked together. And I think it's just fun. I think right now people love to see the teams. And when you see teams compete on the field, but you also start to see them competing off the field for trades, for players, it seems like we're always in the same trades they are. And I can go back to Marcus Peters. We were both involved in it. And Aqib Talib were both involved in it. Stafford, Christian McCaffrey, like that always just seems that we're always on the same players, always on the same types of people. And I think that elevates it a little bit more. And I'll say I have, you want to beat them tremendously. I have great respect. I mean, it's a really well-run franchise.
Right.
They have up there. I think I hope they think the same of us. And I think that's what makes it fun.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm really excited for round 2 back at home, and I think it'll be a great game.
I remember one of the, it's funny you talk about like one of my coolest memories. I think the first Monday Night Football game I ever went to was Rams 49ers in Anaheim Stadium.
Really?
Yeah, and back in the Joe Montana, slinging it days, and the 80s, and I think that there's a nostalgia of this rivalry that I think people enjoy and buy into, and it's been historic, it's geographic, it's nostalgic, and right now you have 2 of the better teams in the NFL for the past few years who just love going against each other. And so hopefully Sunday, we can go break that regular season curse.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so this is the Ram Jam where I close each show. I ask the guests the same 3 questions. No, we'll go for a little while. Rapid fire style-ish. And you may have sort of just talked about this. Which Rams moment is your favorite of all time?
Which Rams moment is my favorite of all time? There's so many I can think of that are different. I think back to our first game back at the Coliseum, even preseason against the Cowboys, 90,000 people.
Yeah.
I think back to Greg Zuerlein hitting the field goal to send us to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and how insanely loud that place was, and then how quiet it went. And you really couldn't even see the ball go through the uprights. You just knew from the sound that it had gone through.
That just gave me chills.
Yeah, and then the Monday night game against the Chiefs, I think just the emotions of that game, supposed to be in Mexico, it gets moved back. You have the borderline shooting, the Woolsey Fire, honoring first responders, and just this amazing first Monday night game in 30 years. In Southern California, you have one of the greatest games ever played in 54. And I remember, watching Marcus Peters intercept the ball, to win the game, to finally seal this moment. And then certainly last year, you kind of go through the crazy moments. Even the one, this is probably an unsung one, the Matthew Stafford to Van Jefferson touchdown pass in the game against the Bears, which is the first game with fans at SoFi. Third play, and it's a play we had practiced all of training camp, kind of a double move to the other side, roll out, and you saw it happen, and then, he makes a catch, gets up, runs in the end zone. It was the first time 70,000 plus at SoFi kind of just erupted. But it also sensed that, hey, maybe this team has a chance to be pretty good. This trade, may just work out. And then you get into the different moments, truly last year, the Cooper Pup pass from Stafford in Tampa, which could have gone, that game went so many different ways,
right.
And then it all happened so fast. Obviously, the moments ending, both Aaron Donald moments in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So many. But I think they all blend together into this amazing tapestry. And then truly, I would say the post-game party last year, celebrating with the staff, thinking back to what had been accomplished, not only winning the Super Bowl, hosting the Super Bowl, but, the first 6 years, in Los Angeles. And, even a smaller moment, this will sound really corny, We did a season ticket member event in April of 2021, the first time people had been through the stadium. We did it in like an hour batches with 2,000 people socially distanced, and just seeing people walk into SoFi
and see it
for the first time, Rams fans for generations who had always wanted their own home, and the pride our fans have in that building, that was one of the core moments ever.
I love that. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One food for the rest of my
life? One meal, one thing.
Probably breakfast tacos, breakfast burritos.
Okay.
I think it's versatile enough that you could make it go in a lot of different ways. But
okay, so that's like your go-to breakfast.
I don't eat breakfast, sadly,
okay.
Which is it's probably one of the great misnomers. Like here I am saying, but like if you told me,
I've never had a breakfast burrito
I'm trying
in
to
my life,
through,
it just sounded good, so I said that.
If this isn't like a last meal, right? But it's like you had to eat one thing.
Well, what would you eat for your last meal?
That's a great question. I've never,
thought about that.
Never really thought about that.
I feel like I would have like a huge sampler. Like I would do like ribs, maybe some buffalo wings, maybe like chips and salsa. Like I think if it was my last meal, I would eat
a really
before.
good Cuban sandwich.
Ooh, that sounds good too.
Last meal would be a great Cuban sandwich.
Okay. All right. What would you do if fear was not a factor and you could not fail?
I don't even know what that means.
Like
that sounds like a tongue twister.
It is.
Did you read that like on a bumper sticker today?
Yeah, that's exactly where I got it. I googled like fun quotes. No, like if fear wasn't like you weren't afraid, is there something you're afraid to do?
I'm terribly afraid of heights.
Okay. So you'd become a bungee jumper.
So maybe like a bungee jumper.
Okay.
Maybe you become a pilot.
That'd be cool.
I think that's one of those things. Like I'm not afraid of flying, but I always think like flying your own plane and thinking about what could happen then would do it. It's funny. I think one of the best things about this organization is that we are fearless.
Right.
When I come up with words that I think about the Rams, and still to this day, you have to give Stan Kroenke credit. The two, most risky decisions probably the past decade, to go buy land and build a stadium and try to attempt something that hadn't been solved in LA for 30 years at tremendous cost, to go hire a 30-year-old head coach, who nobody had ever heard of. And, then a decade later, basically, you're sitting there, 7 years later, winning a Super Bowl in the stadium that you built,
with him,
being the youngest coach to win a Super Bowl. You've been the youngest coach to go to Super Bowl, youngest coach to win a Super Bowl. I always say that's what I love about this organization. Trade deadline, trading for Matthew Stafford. The things we do are all fearless. Doing a 3-minute, Ocean's 11 spoof, for the draft house with your own player. Like that's what I love about this building. It's fearless, and I don't think of anybody in this building as being scared. But personally, probably heights.
Huh. Okay, so, Barefoot Wine, I'm a big barefoot girl. The easy to enjoy question of the week. How does Kevin unwind? Like, what's your go-to hobby or way to relax? I love, like, a nice dinner out after a long day, or if I'm really stressed, like, sometimes, take out exercise, take out going for a run. Like, I want to go enjoy a nice dinner.
So I love cooking. So that's the one. You actually want, like, take your mind off something, go do that.
Okay.
Go cook. Nice dinner's always great. I'm probably the team foodie, so nice. I'm always the one who's restaurant recommendations. So a great dinner out is good. And then those are probably the two.
Because I imagine being, the COO of this fearless team, there must be some moments where you're just like, Kevin's cooking again. He had a long day.
Well, that's, the joke in our family is when we lose, I'm a compulsive cleaner.
Really?
Yeah. So like I could just come home and I start cleaning out the refrigerator, clean the rooms, clean the kids' rooms. Like it is great. Our house, like you can tell Monday morning whether we won or lost by, what our house looks like. But look, I think every job has good, bad, stressful moments. It's great. I love to cook. My wife's a great mixologist. So
love that.
So, this is not a knock on wine. Like we always like wine seems simple.
Right.
Like you need a more challenging thing to think about, rather than just coming home and
pouring
wine.
Yeah. What I like to do is take my Barefoot and then put fruit in it to make it like a sangria. Add a little bit of vodka if you're getting really crazy with it. It's pretty good.
That's a great, I'll send you a great sangria recipe with Barefoot. grilled fruit, grapes, oranges.
That sounds amazing.
great.
Well, Kevin, that's all I have for you today.
We're gonna end on sangria.
We're going to end on sangria.
That's exactly what our fans thought this was gonna be, right?
Okay, so say nothing if OBJ is coming back.
Is this like All the President's Men? Like I'm supposed to?
But now you're talking,
say
so
nothing,
does
or-
that mean we're getting? Huh? Okay, so say something if we're gonna make a trade.
I'll just.
But you're speaking.
Damn it! We should have rehearsed this, right? Like, I'll do the same. Like, do I do the Sean McVay, like OBJ, look in the camera and be like, OBJ, we love you. We'd love you to come back.
Yeah.
And which we do all the time, and it's certainly how we feel. And then say nothing if we're gonna make a trade.
Yeah.
I feel like if I don't know.
See, now you got Jammies. You heard it here first.
So-
Also, while we're on this note, real quick before I say goodbye, what do you think about making Ricky's Ram Jam like an insider show too? So like instead of someone breaking the news, like it's a clip of me being like, sources say that like we're OBJ re-signed with the Rams. Like, how about you, Sean, Les, Tony, put me in that group chat, and then when stuff gets done, then I'll be the one, and that way we're keeping everything in house, and it's just toss me like a little bone.
How sad would you be if nothing came to fruition and you knew all the secrets?
I would love that.
And then there was just it didn't end well,
But
or you're like, wow, these guys are really stupid. Why would they do
guys,
that?
just give them $5.
And then
like,
Sean
give
be
them
like,
$5.
Who the hell is this 603 number? And
New Hampshire, baby. Oh, I love that, Kevin.
that would be I would love just to see
Just
the look,
to add.
just to add you like and see on the group text and be like, just throwing things out and be like, who's this?
Who is this? That would be
That would be the
amazing.
ultimate merger of football and media.
Yeah.
At the Rams.
Yeah.
So, and then you could pop up and you just really want to compete against like Ian and Tom and Mike.
Yeah, I think that like if all of a sudden I'm breaking these huge news, like I think it's good for the Rams ultimately.
Then this would probably be sponsored by like Motorola or Google or Apple, right? Because you'd be on your phone. Like,
Yeah.
You just want the look of like it's okay to be on your phone.
Yeah. I want to be on TikTok like listening to Taylor Swift's new album while you're talking and all that kind of stuff.
People think that
I'm trading.
you're actually getting information from Les.
Like,
of,
hold on, I got some good info.
all right, so who should we trade for? You got to close this if you're going to be on the group text.
I think that we should make a move for pass rush. I think with all the reinforcements coming back after the bye, and we've got some healthy pieces coming back, I think maybe Bradley Chubb would be nice. I think Brian Burns, even though they said he's not available, but I don't know.
See, the great part is you just failed Team 101 in your old NFL days.
Yeah.
You could say that. You just tampered with Denver and Carolina, so we're probably getting fined.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, you can't say that.
What do you mean I can't say take this player?
Yeah, you just tampered with Denver and Carolina. So when we get fined, we're gonna Ricky's Ram Jam will get us.
Okay, send me the bill. I'll drink all the Barefoot.
When we lose a third round pick because of Ricky's Ram Jam,
Then what would the show get canceled, do you think? Would you be mad?
we probably just have to change the guests.
Awesome, Kevin. Thanks so much for hanging out today.
It's awesome. This is fun.
Wow. So I think we got a lot of information there, and I'm going to read between the lines. And as your new Rams insider, I will let you know as soon as something comes up, maybe like a week later. So that's how I'm going to report things from now on. You guys, thanks to Kevin for hanging out. That was awesome. Second studio show in the actual studio in the books. And I think it's time for some Barefoot wine. All right, let's take on the Niners. Let's ram it.